Hello everybody and welcome back to another Sims 4 video. Today I have a fixer-upper ranch that I've built specifically for my Sims 4 Let's Play the Kaplans. But before I get into it, I just want to point out how fast the exterior shape of this build came together. The reason being is when I originally built this, I had struggled with the layout a lot. Like I had a vision of what I wanted the exterior to kind of look like, but I really wanted to perfect the interior. So before I started building this home, I had been practicing the shape of the exterior, and through trial and error I finally perfected it. So when it came to finally record the video, it came together rather fast. So that's why it only literally took 50 seconds of video time sped up to just plop the exterior home together. I usually don't do it this fast for your records. But yeah, I had originally built this home on July 25th, and it took me 2 days-ish to finally finish up. But the reason why I'm only posting it right now is because, as I mentioned earlier, this is for part of my Let's Play. And for the sake of avoiding spoilers, I tend to backlog builds that I build specifically for my Kaplan series for a little bit of time until the release date kind of matches up to when the gameplay is caught up with it. So this fixer-upper ranch should be introduced to the series actually pretty shortly. The next episode that I will release of my series, I will link the entire playlist of the series in the description below if you want to catch up. I really love making videos for you guys with this family. But basically the next episode that I'm going to release, it's going to be episode 26, I believe. And we're going to be moving into this fixer-upper ranch. And if you already do watch the series and you're like, who the hell is moving into this dump? Because my Kaplan series is basically filled with rich and famous Sims. So I understand why some of you might be confused. But basically this ranch is going to be for my Sim Zara. She is currently wrapping up college. She is in Brichester studying to become a lawyer. And in the next episode, she's going to finish college and she's going to move into this house. So this is the perfect opportunity to release this build because we're about to play in it. And I want to speak a little bit further on the backstory of this home because, as you can see, we've actually put a horse stable in this barn. And the storyline being is that an old Sim used to live in this ranch alone, and obviously I can imagine this being a home that he used to live in with a partner who had passed away, and since he is old, he is not able to kind of keep up with the maintenance that the home requires. So the home is very outdated in style. It also has some really nasty flooring and wallpaper, and the wood panelings are just old. And I don't own any packs that have like the cobwebs or the holes in the walls, so I don't end up including them, but obviously those would be like patched up anyway before you move in. So that's kind of the storyline, that he passed away and he used to own a horse, but the horse outlived him. And so when my Sim Zara came across the listing, the only catch was you have to also take care of the horse. So my Sim Zara, who's fresh out of college, she's never had a horse before. She's never dealt with a horse before. I don't think she's even ridden a horse before. Now owns a horse and has to take care of it. So I thought that was a funny storyline where here you are just going through Zillow or whatever and you come across this listing that's asking you to take care of the horse, because you don't want to euthanize it. The horse is actually an elder, so it's not going to live for very long anyway. Well, you never know, because I do have long lifespan for my non-played households and the animals, but for my played households, I have aging turned off, just so I can kind of go with my own pace and live out all of the storylines that I want to, because I do have a lot of Sims in the series, and if I don't have aging turned off, all of them are gonna die before I even do anything with them. So that's how I just prefer to play, because I kind of tend to use this series for my personal gameplay. Like, there's no actual point of the series at all. Like, it's just me genuinely playing The Sims 4, and that's why I don't see this series ever ending, even though I am planning on taking a break for a little while just to kind of focus on different content and growing the channel a little bit more. As long as I'm playing The Sims 4, this is going to be the save file that I do it in. And I genuinely feel like the storylines are interesting. Like, I definitely, since I started recording the series, I've done a lot of things that I've never thought that I would do with my Sims, like divorces or like unplanned premature deaths. No spoilers. That hasn't happened yet. So I do kind of like narrate the story and plan it ahead of time, but the gameplay is genuinely just me experiencing things as authentically as possible. And this entire build is kind of a way for me to integrate into playing a little bit more with Horse Ranch, just because I've owned this pack for a while, but I haven't genuinely played with it in depth, like at all. And I don't really tend to play with different save files. Like, this is the only save file that I actually plan. I recognize that I may be not in the majority of that style of play, but I'm way too attached to The Sims in this save file to ever stop playing it. And I know how this sounds, trust me. It sounds so stupid to say, and saying it out loud, I recognize that. But I've spent such a long time playing with them and developing their personalities and working on their storylines to just quit cold turkey. Whereas normal people would just start a whole new save to play with Horse Ranch, for instance, I tend to wait until a Sims storyline takes me this way. And that's why I made up this storyline of the old man that owned this horse, and now my sim has to take care of it. It's kind of a fun way to story tell for my series, but also be able to play with horses and nectar making. And also that's why we end up adding a nectar making machine in the barn, just to make use of that gameplay. But we don't actually own a cellar, which is kind of a requirement for making nectar. If you want to age the wine, you have to store it in a basement. At least I think that's how it works, but as I mentioned earlier, I haven't really delved too much into the gameplay, and that's why I'm really excited to start playing this series. But the reason why I did not include a cellar is because this was actually a budgeted build, and my sim had just finished college, so she wasn't really swimming in cash, even though she comes from a wealthy background. But she's kind of trying to make it on her own, so we limited this to 55k, and I ended up needing a little bit extra, so we gave ourselves an extra 10k. So the budget for this home was 65k, and we didn't even end up using all of it. So yeah, this home ends up being 63k and a little bit more, but yeah, so just under 64k basically. And I really loved how everything ended up turning out. We used really cheap appliances originally, but when we finally moved in, my sim started working with her lawyer career, and because she studied to become a lawyer, she started quite ahead in the career. And so when she finally got hired, I looked at our inventory. We actually had the career unlockables, which were like those really fancy bookshelves and desks and chairs from the lawyer career. So we ended up selling those because we didn't really need them. And those were a lot of money. So I was quite ecstatic to find just this free furniture that was very expensive. So we sold that and we ended up switching the appliances before I could cook with them, because I was not about to turn this whole home into flames. Because my sim actually don't have that high of a cooking skill, and if combine that with really shitty appliances, that's a recipe for a fire hazard. So we definitely, first order of business was to get brand new, better appliances. But before I bore you too much with my Kaplan series talk, I will wrap it up with my favorite part of the series, which is it is truly filled with a lot of gameplay that I'm experiencing for the first time, with really kind of shocking and good storytelling. Not that I'm biased or anything, but I generally think that the storylines are kind of exciting. And what I think distinguishes me from other Let's Play series on YouTube is that I don't focus on a single household, but I have multiple households that have different storylines and different gameplay attached to each household. So for instance, I've never really played with the doctor career, and so I definitely have a sim that's currently a child who will go into the doctor career so I can experience that gameplay too. And I have a sim that owns a retail store, so if I want to play with that gameplay, I just go to them. And so it's always fresh with each household, and it's definitely a style of Let's Play that I haven't seen anywhere else. So that's kind of the reason why I started this whole channel, is because of my Kaplan series. But anyway, I'll shut up about it, and I'll talk a little bit more about this build. This ranch ends up being a 3-bedroom and 2-bathroom home, and it has a study nook attached to the living room and a sunroom that we utilize as an extra dining room. It's almost kind of like a boot room. It attaches the kitchen and the garden area. We end up using those little garden beds from the cottage living expansion pack, and I would imagine that area being where the previous owner of this home grew his nectar and made wine from it, but it's currently just an empty plot of land, really. But this house, the thing that I love about this house is kind of the mixture of the old aesthetic of the home when it came to the floorboards, the wallpapers, the fireplace that's been there for ages, and all of the main features that you can't really change that easily, like the kitchen counters and the old bathroom appliances, mixed with this really vibrant, colorful, over-the-top pop teeny vibe of the furniture, which I've had a lot of fun mixing the two aesthetics, where I can kind of imagine the furniture that's in this home bought from the dorm section of Target. You know what I mean? It just kind of gives that vibe. I had so much fun mix and matching the aesthetics of this rustic ranch vibe with the really colorful and vibrant energy of the furniture. Like, these two aesthetics should not be mixed together, but obviously, since I was furnishing this home for my sim Zara, and I wanted to build this home with her in mind, and that's kind of what I came up with, and it made for a really funny build, 100%. I loved using the really old bathroom appliances, but I've used the shower tub combo from the Parenthood game pack, and that has really colorful shower curtains. And so it was kind of funny having this dirty, disgusting tile, but really bright and colorful shower curtain or really bright and colorful towels on the wall. And so the entire build really has that energy carried through, where we kind of bring a lot of textures and a lot of fun patterns with the rugs and all that good stuff and the paintings. So definitely I've never built anything like this, and it was kind of a great opportunity to do that. But right now we're currently just working on the extra dining room, and this room I imagine it being only for special occasions. If you're maybe throwing a birthday party or you have a Christmas dinner planned, this is the room to do it. But for every day, I definitely see them using the sunroom, where we end up including an extra dining room to kind of eat at on normal occurrences. But yeah, I also end up adding a lot of pet stuff, which in the series my sim don't own any pets as of yet, but I knew for whenever I moved them into this home, I 100% wanted them to adopt a dog, specifically a golden retriever, just because I think that that household really suits that type of dog. I don't know, like especially since we live on this huge ranch with a lot of land, it would be a use not to have a dog to kind of roam around and run along Firefly, which is going to be our horse's name in this series. Speaking of Firefly, we end up actually changing up the location of the barn. Where it stands, it currently is facing towards the front of the lot, but we actually end up moving it to the back of the lot, and we utilize the front space for the horse to kind of just roam and run around. But anyway, this is the sunroom that I was talking about. It's not really a sunroom, but it's just kind of a boot room. I don't know how to describe this room. It's just kind of a room to take off your muddy shoes before you enter the home, but since it gets like a lot of natural light because of the windows all around it, it makes for a sunroom. So we added a table just to sit at and eat or play cards maybe, and definitely a pet bowl for our newly adopted dog that you should be seeing in the next episode. But we definitely were filtering for cutesy type furniture and artwork to kind of suit Zara's energy, because I definitely wanted to stay authentic to whoever is actually living here, since that's pretty much the reason for the whole build. And I will say some of the rooms are not going to be furnished fully, just because I knew that Zara already had furniture on her own that she will bring over from either her parents' old room or her college dorm room. So especially in the bedroom, you will see a lot of missing furniture, and that was kind of deliberate, especially since we were kind of on a budget. So I definitely wanted to reuse furniture so we don't have to buy brand new everything, to kind of free up some funds that way. As you can see, I definitely included those bump outs in the build so I can place those bay windows from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. I just thought that a lot of homes have those window seats everywhere. Every time I see a window seat, it reminds me of The Last of Us when Ellie runs away from Joel because he was about to hand her over to his brother Tommy to kind of go and meet the fireflies. That's so funny, fireflies. I just slapped my knee if you could hear that. But yeah, that scene where she was kind of reading a diary from someone's home and she was just sitting at a window seat. That's every time I see a window seat, that's what I think of. Which The Last of Us, what a freaking great game. But anyway, this room here is going to be for a guest bedroom. I really like to include guest bedrooms in all of my builds that I do for the series, because when I play with them, I definitely sometimes tend to combine households for storytelling purposes, and so having a bed ready for a sim to sleep in is just kind of really handy for me, which is the whole purpose of a guest bedroom in the first place. But anyway, we're working on the barn that's going to house our horse, and that's actually when we're going to go ahead and move the barn to the back of the lot. The reason being is because this is going to be so very specific, but a long time ago I watched Nicole Kidman's AD house tour and in Australia, and she actually owns horses. And I remember leading up to her home, there was this massive field that was surrounded by a white picket fence for her horses to run around. So I definitely wanted to include a really big area for the horse to just do its thing. We include some prairie grass for the horse to kind of eat out of. We obviously include a water tank or a water feeding station for him, and just some trees and some really fun stuff. We don't actually include any racing barrels or the jumps for the horse. The reason being is because actually attached to this massive 64 by 64 lot, there is a fenced in area dedicated for horse training, where I can imagine Zara utilizing that space for Firefly. This lot is actually really special because not only is it a 64 by 64 lot, but in the world surrounding it, it's actually fenced in by this giant white picket fence, kind of in an oval shape, where it looks like the whole entire area belongs to this whoever lives on this 64 by 64 lot, which actually makes this lot appear so much bigger in gameplay than it actually is. But yeah, the interior of the barn, we include some hay bales, which actually are meant to be seating, but obviously if you stack them around, it just looks like a hay pile. And that's actually where we utilize the nectar making machine. That's where I think I will add a ladder leading into a cellar to kind of age nectar, but that's going to be for a later day to worry about. And now we're just working on the home office. I obviously felt like including this room since our sim is going to be a lawyer. A computer will 100% be necessary at some point for the career. I keep this room relatively not too decorated because I knew for a fact that I was going to bring some stuff with me, like some trophies and our college diplomas. And when you graduate, you actually get a picture of yourself holding your certificate. So I definitely kept that in mind when I was furnishing this home. The only thing that's left for me to furnish is the hallways and the master bedroom, and then the entirety of the exterior landscaping and stuff, which actually ends up being my favorite part of this build, which is, aside from the aesthetics of the old rustic home with the girl boss furniture energy, the exterior ends up being very simple and really natural looking, 100%. I particularly like the gravel driveway leading into the barn area that's kind of surrounded by the debug shrubs and stuff, and our little outdoor garden area. It's going to be great, just you wait. But this is going to be our really minimal bedroom, and the reason why it's minimal is because it's going to be basically empty. You'll just have to tune in to the next episode of my Kaplan series to see what it all looks like, because I've already filmed that episode and I know how everything changes and comes together at the end after we brought over all our old furniture. And I know that there's a third bedroom in this home that I did not end up furnishing. The reason being is I think I'm just waiting for it to be turned into a nursery at some point. I definitely see kids in the future of Zara's life, I suppose. So that room will have to be TBC, I suppose. And now this is just the gravel that we're laying down to lead you over to the barn area. I definitely wanted to include the horse transport trailer thing. I don't know the actual term, but I know that you know what I mean. Right now we're just currently working on some terrain paint. I definitely wanted to make it look as natural as I possibly could, so we did dirt first and then we overlaid it with the gravel. And in the front of the lot, we did this long and windy road that leads you from the horse area over to the training area that I was talking about earlier. So I imagine this whole thing really belongs to my Sims Zara. You kind of can see the little oval shape that I was talking about, like right there. This lot definitely needed a lot of big trees dotted around. We definitely make use out of the tree that came from the movie hangout stuff, the one that has lanterns hanging off of it. This one right here. I think I used it more than once, but I think it just adds to the overall ambience of the lot. And just going through debug, picking out a couple of things, that's when I decided to do this broken fence thing that surrounds the garden area, where I am going to utilize for nectar making at some point, but that's going to come with gameplay at some point. Lastly, perhaps my favorite thing that we do with the exterior is that we go back and we just go to town with the firefly object that came with the cottage living expansion pack, I want to say, but it might be a base game feature at this point if I'm remembering correctly. But those fireflies at night just make this build so special. That's probably my favorite part, because we don't put just a couple, we go all over it. And that actually inspired the horse's name, Firefly, because of all the fireflies around the slot. This is just the broken fence that I was talking about earlier. I thought that it was a kind of a nice little touch to add the broken fence, considering that this lot is supposed to be kind of a little bit unkept. So debug has a lot of items that you can utilize for those little storytelling purposes. But yeah, I know it's looking a little bit bare right now, but when we add those hedges framing the gravel driveway, it will look 10 times better. You just wait. Don't ever doubt me, you know? Don't ever doubt me. And here we are. We're actually framing the driveway. Obviously, we had to include the little pickup truck, so I added that orange pickup that I can imagine Zara's partner uses around the ranch to do the work and transport the horse to the vet or wherever she needs to go. Can you see those little fairy lights on the other side of the fence that we can't edit? That kind of inspires me to add the toddler stuff pack fairy lights. Combine it with the firefly flying around. The night mode in this slot is just breathtaking. Which takes me to my final point before we wrap up the video. I'm not going to include any screenshots at the end. Maybe I'll include some of the nighttime, but I don't want to include any of the interior since it's not finished, especially the upstairs. So I don't want to take up any more of your time or do a final tour. You'll just have to tune into the series to see this home in action. But I think what I will do is maybe include a couple screenshots of the nighttime, because it's 10 out of 10, my favorite part of this entire build. And with that, we're pretty much at the end of the video, so I'll go ahead and wrap up right here. I hope that you enjoyed the speed build. I know I had a lot of fun building it, so if you do decide to get it, I will link my origin ID in the description below. While you're down there, check out my Kaplan series, and with that, I will see you in the next one, okay? Bye.